it's Sophie and Marco Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are doing basically it's going to be Marco for the most part, reviewing new TV shows we watched or TV series of 2021. Reviewing and ranking them, and
the new ones.
New ones.
Not the old ones.
Not the old ones that have been around for a while. And basically Marco is going to do, for the most part, because I hardly watch any TV. I watch YouTube. That's it. I have a lot of contacts all over that do different things, and that's what I watch. But I did watch a few, but not as much as him. So we thought best he do it, for the most part. And I'll interject if I have anything worthwhile to say. So here he is.
Okay! My number 11. Now, here's the thing. The last two, I didn't even finish them because they were that bad. Number 11 is Loki. You know, they hyped the show up.
Yeah, they did.
They advertised the hell out of it to force you to watch it. Like, you gotta get Disney Plus so that you can keep up with all these important shows and stories so that you can understand the shit films that we make. And this Loki show was complete garbage.
And that's a shame.
It was a feminazi agenda show, and of course, it was written by a woman, and no surprise there. And the reason I say that is because it seems like nowadays, the majority of things made by women are trash.
Well, that's horrible.
Because they're hiring everyone. Like, with the guys, they still say, like, no, I won't hire you, I'll only hire him. But with the women, they're just hiring them all nowadays. And a lot of them are just feminazi agenda writers. They're propagandists. They're not actual storytellers. And with this one, you got this bitch who, she's bisexual in real life, so she made the character Loki bisexual just to make herself feel better. I mean, what a disgusting, narcissistic, something I can't even say. That's how gross the show is. It's boring. I only watched 2 episodes. You know, they introduced this character, this female character, and of course she's the female Loki, and she does everything better than Loki, and, you know, she's so much better than him, and it's just fucking sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And they have this stupid plot about the universe, everything's already been pre-written, and you can't actually make a difference in anything because it's all been predetermined. And it's like, oh, I wonder where that's from. Safi.
Predetermination. I've heard about that.
Where's that from, Safi?
I don't know.
And I heard, like, all the plot twists that happen. It's so bad. And then that blonde guy's in it. Oh, yeah, and then they have, like, these other feminazi characters. Like, they have this judge woman, and she's just there to yell at the male characters. And then they have this, like, security guard, and she's this big hulking woman who, you know, she beats the male characters up. Like, it's really sickening. Anti-male show. And it's complete garbage regardless. Like, the story makes no sense. There's tons of stupid references, too. Like, in the first episode, they're making a reference to Scream. And it's like, what 5-year-old kid who's watching this brainless, mentally retarded programming? What 5-year-old kid has seen Scream? I didn't see Scream until I was like 12. No, wait, no, 11. Oh, wait, no, 10. You know. And then number 10, speaking of 10, that's why I did that, Safi.
No.
Number 10, another series that I didn't finish, is Wandavision. And this is another feminazi show. You have this extremely unlikable main character in Scarlet Witch. And it's too bad because she was one of the better female characters in the MCU for a long time. And then with the series, they made her complete trash.
Aww.
And her character has literally taken an entire town hostage and she's brainwashing them and torturing them so that they can be a part of her fantasy life. And in the end, I heard that she just apparently gets to just walk off into the sunset. And she pays no consequences for doing that because she's a strong woman. And then you got Vision. He's the best part of the show. He's obviously really good. It's such a waste of time. These 20-minute episodes, they barely get anything accomplished. They're parodying all these shows, and they're focusing more on making stupid parodies than making actual good episodes. And it's too bad because Monk's 8th season actually did WandaVision better than WandaVision ever did. Because there's this episode in season 8. Oh, it's the first episode. And at the end of that one, Monk actually envisions himself as a part of the show that he used to watch as a kid. And they play out this scene, and it's actually like a really well done scene. And it's like, oh, it's too bad that they didn't just have the Monk writers come over and do this instead of whatever. Oh yeah, it was another woman. Sorry, Sophie. And she's one of those who admits that she doesn't even read the comics because she doesn't care.
That's ridiculous.
She just wants to do whatever she wants to spread her disgusting agendas. So now we're done with the agenda shows, almost. There will be one coming up, but number 9 is American Horror Story, Death Valley. Now, you saw that one, Sophie.
Yes, I did.
Now, this show, I'll just say my little piece, then Sophie can say something. This is a show. Well, this story is only 4 episodes long. And that in itself is trash. I mean, you can't tell a story in 4 episodes unless it's like some meaningless anthology story. Or if it's like an X-Files 4-parter or something like that. But this is trying to tell an entire story about President Eisenhower.
Which I enjoyed that part.
That part was fine for the most part until it wasn't. And then they tried to tell this awful story with these college idiots who were so obnoxious and unlikable that, like, you wanted them to die. And so this whole story, it's all about how you're supposed to be upset about them being trapped inside Area 51, and you can't be upset because the characters are so fucking unlikable that you just want them to die.
Wow.
And the finale is garbage. It's completely unsatisfying, just throwing shit at the wall. A typical American Horror Story finale. So, Sophie, what do you have to say?
Well, like I said, I enjoyed the part about Eisenhower. We never really, I think, hear about Eisenhower. And, of course, he was very important. He was president. He was a military leader in World War II, very important for the closure of World War II in Europe. And and then Mamie, who was played by, what's her name? I can't remember her name. I'm apologizing. Crybaby. That's why I can't remember her name because we made up our own name for her.
That's her name.
But she's a very good actress. I'm not saying anything.
Not most of the time. Not most of the time.
I don't mean to be rude or critical.
I do.
She played Mamie, and I thought it was interesting. Mamie, I was really young, but she always presented herself in history as somebody real quiet. I don't know, this thing about the holiday. I did try to read up. I said I would to see what the deal was about her liking holidays and birthdays. She was like that in the White House. She wanted people to be happy. She wanted people to come in who didn't normally celebrate those things and do that as kind of like a public service, or just to be friendly and welcoming and nice and hospitable. So I know that's all beside the point. the thing is, they did some things during the telling of their story, their personal story, which I thought was kind of offensive. And I think that people who were older than me, who were in World War II,
Well, Sophie,
which they're all dying off.
The opening scene with the college kids was very offensive to you.
Well, yeah, I'll get to that. But anyway, I think they would have been offended by what they saw, even though it's just TV, it's made up. I don't know. I just don't think doing offensive is entertaining.
It can be if it's good.
It can be if it's, yeah, but
like
when
with
it's
Bully.
when it's like this, mm-mm. And then I was extremely offended. Now the thing with the Mamie thing, you know, I could laugh that off because I'm not in that generation.
Yeah, she has sex with a robot and betrays her husband.
Right by her husband though. He's sitting right there.
Really,
oh God!
Really
and
bad.
then the thing with the college students, and I was very upset because I don't like this thing where we have to get into a deep personal discussion about sexual practices of anybody. I don't care if they're gay. I don't care if they're straight. I don't want to hear it on TV. If I want to watch pornography, I'll watch pornography and hear about the sexual practices. But I don't want to hear it on a TV show. It's on, I don't know, what time is it on? I guess it's on past the time that kids stay up.
To be fair,
my kids were up.
You can't even hear the fucking show. You had to but that was another issue, was that with the show, we have a fine TV, and we had to turn I had to turn the volume up all the way to 100.
It could be because of what was being said.
Even then, I could barely hear it.
But one of the episodes, it was a gay thing in this circumstance, but there was some things with the straight girl that she said. That's what I'm saying. I'm not anti-gay because it's so far from the truth.
But the
it's
thing is,
anybody. I don't like those personal, pornographic. I mean, it was. If I would have been that actor, the boy, the homosexual person, talking and saying those lines. I know he has a job and he is getting paid, but really, and your parents are going to hear you say that? Do you think you would, are they going to enjoy that? Do you think they're going to like that? And I mean, I would be so mortified.
It's really showing the difference between the 1950s when Eisenhower was president and then nowadays, like in a bad way.
And I mean, do you understand that, you know, football players, like, you know, everybody's been watching football lately because it's, you know, all the championships.
I don't think the people who watch our channel are watching football.
I don't know about that.
They're too alpha to be watching football.
I don't know about that, but anyway, people have watch parties, and this is true on anything, competitive sports, and I would think that if you're an actor, actress, you don't have that many big parts. You're on this big show. It is a very big show. And you're saying things like that, and your whole family is at home with the neighbors and friends or relatives watching that you say this trash that's spewing out of your mouth like poisonous venom. I mean, I was so shocked, and it made me sick. Now, I'm sorry, it just did, and I don't think it's right, but it's their problem. They're going to have to explain it to their family. I can't even imagine. Can you imagine being a parent? Your kid's up there, you've got neighbors sitting there, and their neighbors' eyes are popping out of their heads, and their mouths are wide open, and you're sitting there, oh my God.
I wouldn't care.
Shrinking down in your seat.
I wouldn't care because I would just be talking to them about how bad the show was in general, and how, you know, even if you take that scene out of it, the show's trash. And it wasn't just a boy. It was the girl talking about. I don't even want to say it. She was talking about
Please don't.
Venomous male sperm.
Marco, you actually looked that up because I'm telling you, I have repeatedly emphasized to him.
I think it's true for like 5%, or like a very small percentage of women in America have that problem. But the thing is that it just comes out of nowhere, and it never...
It doesn't fit. What does it have to do
It never
with
gets brought up
aliens?
again. See, I thought that, like, maybe the aliens were going to encounter a problem with her and it was going to be like the way that
Related
they
to
would
that.
escape.
I don't
Like,
know.
I thought it was, I'm not going to say, but I just thought, like, you know, because that you bring stuff like that up, it's supposed to come back later.
But the thing is, Marco and I have been watching X-Files. We have been watching. We're on the 3rd season.
There's no
And
venom.
they
There's
go-
no venomous stuff in that one.
And they go back every so often to the alien thing because that's kind of what they're built around. Kind of like the truth is out there. It's not just they cover all kinds of different things, but the alien thing comes back periodically. They don't devote 15 minutes to it and say nasty things spewing out of their mouths. And they still do a lot better job. And they really, these people making these shows, they really need to look at other shows and how they did. They don't have to do it exactly like it's done, but they really need to know
they did have
that language they put in there was
did,
so vile and revolting.
They did have that gender bender episode where there's a person, a supernatural being, and he can turn himself into a man or a woman, and then he's going around like having sex and killing all of his victims. And it's funny because that episode, if it was done like with this show, it could have been as bad as this show, but since it was made by the people who made the X-Files, it was better than that.
Well,
anyways,
let's not digress. I just it was I did like the historical part.
I didn't.
But the rest of that and the ending was not satisfying because
it was terrible
of what they did, and they kind of like they had an idea and there it was, and they threw acid all over it or something. They threw it on the ground like it was trash.
It's funny too because the stuff that I came up with in the comment section was better than the stuff that happened. Like, well, I'm not going to get into it. Anyways,
no,
number 8 was Chucky, season 1. And speaking of gay agendas,
I don't care about that.
I
just
do.
wanted a good show about Chucky.
Because get your fucking agendas out of my storytelling,
yeah,
or else I'm gonna keep complaining about it.
Well, you should.
And I don't care if like, oh, you're a homophobe because you don't like Chucky. Like, yeah, fuck off. You just don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Don't say that.
You clearly have no. I mean, because there's no other response. Like, oh, you can't actually defend this trash show. You just have to resort to name calling. And, with me, let's get into Chucky. This show started off really, really good. And I thought it was going to be probably the best show of the year. It started off with a very dark premise where you had an outsider kid and he's being bullied and he has an abusive father. Or at least he's depressed and he's a little abusive because I don't really know how much abusive he was.
Well, we didn't. It was such a short season. We didn't get to see anything.
And,
it was brief.
But then it's like this fantastic idea where Chucky is gonna start killing people with this kid, and they're gonna team up together to basically take over this town like it's Gremlins. And I was really excited, like to just watch like a Heather style show, but with kids and Chucky. Like, wow, what a fantastic idea that was. And then there's this great episode where his main bully, this shitty mean girl named Lexi, Chucky is going to kill her, and the whole episode is this fantastic build-up to her getting killed off. And then guess what happens? She doesn't get killed, and they don't even bother to explain how she escaped.
No, and oh my God, she was like within a hair's breadth of getting killed.
He was standing on top of her with a knife, and the whole room's on fire, and then all of a sudden the next episode, boop, she's in the hospital, and it's like, oh, that's perfectly okay, because I like the gay romance. Like, ew. And so that's where the second half of the show goes.
She wasn't in the hospital as a sick person. Her sister was, because her sister's a little girl.
That's not relevant.
Well, I know that, but it sounds like she was hurt in some way. Nope, not a scratch on her. Nothing, nothing. Her little sister, now she had inhaled too much smoke or something.
Sophie, you know we can't go on for 5 hours.
I know, but
See,
it's just
this is why you get interrupted.
okay. Well,
Because
anyway,
no one cares.
they
That's
just
not
leave
relevant.
out. They just left out like huge chunks of the story and just pretended like it was okay.
And then in the second half, it all became about the gay romance between Jake and Devin. Jake and Devin, like, ugh, who cares? Nobody wants to see that. That's like they're kids. Number one. Number two. What does that have to do with Chucky? Absolutely nothing.
No.
The creator of the show, he just inserted it because he wanted to self-insert himself into the show, and so that he could have his little agenda. And then in the second half, Chucky is basically so weak that he never kills any more kids, except for Junior. And then you have this Junior character, and all of a sudden in the final episode, he becomes the main bad guy along with Chucky. And just, it's so embarrassing. This show is so bad. It's such a weak and pathetic trash joke of a show. It's confusing. It's complicated. It's building off of the mythology of even shittier movies like The Curse and Cult of Chucky and The Seed of Chucky. They actually have references to Seed of Chucky. I mean, what a pathetic excuse for a Chucky show.
Why would they do that? Were they promoting it because it wasn't as popular or something? Do you think?
It's basically like the creator is just like giving an FU. Like, oh, you didn't like Seed of Chucky? Well, too bad. It's canon now. Ha 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 ha! Like, okay, well, your show sucks. And guess what? This show also had this flashback story. And there's not even an actual story, though. And it's funny because it started off and you thought that the whole season that you were going to see Chucky as a kid eventually becoming a killer by the end. Well, no, they decided to just skip to where he's an adult, and then they have him as an adult played by his real life daughter, which was weird. And then it's basically completely irrelevant. There's no story that was needed. Trash show. Sophie?
Yeah,
And it was 8 episodes. I mean, what the hell? Like, are people going to start making TV shows or what? Like, TV shows should be like 13 episodes minimum. Like, it's just getting lazy, Sophie.
Oh, I don't know what it is, but you're selling yourself short if you're creative and you leave out chunks of story and then just chop it off at the end like, okay. I mean, Junior was an extremely weak character, and even in his bad stage where he's turned into the murderer and the bad kid who's threatening these other people, and he's talking more and what he's saying is terrible, he's weak. He looks weak. He's weak, and he just was terrible. I'm sorry, but he was
really bad. And it's funny because the best thing about this whole season was the mean girl, Lexi.
She was great.
She was the
She's
best
perfect.
actress.
She was the best of everybody.
She was the best character.
Well,
and it's
except
like,
for Chucky.
Like, why is that? Like, I thought we were supposed to like this fucking emo Jake kid who just wants to sit around and cry and make goofy faces, and it's like, I hate that kid. What a stupid character. But he's trash. Like, you want to see a second season starring Jake Wheeler? Ugh.
No, Nobody
wants to see that.
I don't think it's going to be that way, but we'll
Hopefully
see what happens. I don't see what more they can say.
Rather
They've killed
throw
off
up
all
and
their
eat
parents. There was one parent left, and that was Lexi's mom.
But Sophie, they have the biology teacher who just magically got out of prison, and she takes them to
I guess she's going to adopt them all, except for Lexi, because Lexi's mom, in her real life, too.
She's
her mother in real life. She and her mother lived.
She's going to encourage Jake and Devin to have a gay relationship while they're stepbrothers together. Okay, so...
Number 7?
Number
is?
7 is American Horror Story Red Tide. Now, this one was really bad as well, and everyone attacked us well, they attacked me because I'm smarter. Well, no, because I was attacking the show more. Sophie was kind of defending it a little bit at first. Because when I watch a show or a movie, I can see the things that are going to happen before they even happen. And so when I saw all these bad things happen, I knew that they were going to make for an even worse finale. And the finale to this Red Tide is probably the worst TV finale I've ever seen.
It was very disappointing.
And it was rushed because this was only 6 episodes. Lazy asses.
Very sad.
And it's too bad. It started off with a fun premise. You have a family who moves to this town, and there's this pill that turns you into a vampire on accident. And then, like, what's going to happen with this family? They're going to get torn apart like The Shining. It's pretty good at first. And then it immediately shits the bed when, the little girl, Alma, like, everyone basically just loved her because she's a little girl. And it's like, F off. Because her character, she just stayed one way the whole season. She's just this flat character. And she murders the sheriff. And then you don't even hear about it until it's like episodes later. And God, this was so bad.
There's no law enforcement in the town.
And then
they've all been killed off, and there wasn't hardly any to begin with.
It's too bad because Macaulay Culkin and crybaby Sarah Paulson, they're the best part. They're actually really good
Macaulay
in this
Culkin
part.
did an excellent job, and
Yeah.
I was happy because for a while there in his real life, he looked like he was a disaster, but he really turned himself around, and he looked like he had. He looked very good, and it was just so good.
But
and
their
so was
story,
Crybaby, who usually.
all she does is cry. She goes like, wah, wah, wah.
I haven't seen her and everything. But,
Well, you saw her in the second season.
Yeah, I did.
She was so hateable in that season. I just wanted to fucking punch the screen over and over again like fucking Cobra Kai shit on the screen.
But they both did an excellent job. They really did. And it's kind of sad that they... But it was interesting how they went out.
Because that was the best part. That was the best part of the whole season.
I really liked their characters. Because it was very tragic. I mean, it just them alone and their little story around them was more interesting maybe than some of the other crap we saw, which was nothing. It was really filler.
And the story kept on having these plot holes, these plot conveniences. There was that one part where he gets taken hostage by the rapist couple, and they have a video camera that's recording, and then he kills both of them on camera, and it's never brought up what happens with the video footage. Like, they don't even bother to show, like, oh, he just takes the video camera and destroys it. Like, oh, no, we can't do that because we only have 6 episodes. And then there's, like, this tattoo artist character, and she sharpens people's teeth to make them into vampires. And she's literally, like, dropped off the show.
Yeah, she disappeared.
And then by the end of the show, they kill off all the main villains in, like, 2 seconds. And it's just, like, super easy. Just barely any inconveniences, like that pitch meeting show guy says. And then they have this stupid-ass agenda where they have the chemist character who invented the pills, and she's basically involved in this BLM agenda bullshit, and
had no place in it at all.
So cringeworthy, disgusting, evil writers who wrote this kind of disgusting ass shit. And so yeah, it was just a big FU and such a disgrace. And then you had you had that Ursula character. She was garbage too. She was the worst character on television the entire year, Sophie. Would you agree with that?
She was awful.
she was an annoying biatch, and her character was so unlikable. She's just playing like the South Park style character, and it doesn't fit because we're watching a horror show. We don't want to see a South Park satire character in a horror show. Anyways, number 6 is Your Honor. Now this show, it's too bad because this show started off like it could have been really, really good. You have Bryan Cranston, you have the bad guy, I can't remember his name, and there's a pretty cool premise, and there's this drama about like he accidentally killed the son of the bad guy, and then what's going to happen, how is Bryan Cranston going to cover it all up while at the same time doing this other trial. Like, it gets pretty intense at certain points, but as the show goes on, it just keeps on making more and more excuses and more plot holes. And it's very rushed, too, because this was only a one-season miniseries, of course, because, we don't have TV shows anymore. We just have, like, little miniseries. And everything is rushed to an end. There's all these open-ended questions that come up, the Bryan Cranston's wife was killed before the show happened, and like, ooh, who was the killer? And there's this corrupt mayor, and there's all sorts of these questions that are completely left unopened, that are left unanswered. And instead, we have the shitty finale where Bryan Cranston, the whole episode is just, where, everyone's learning the truth. And it's just so predictable and so rushed and stupid. And then there's this stupid kid named Eugene. And I'm not kidding you guys. There's literally like a 10-year-old kid running around the city. And no one cares. No one bothers to help him or do anything. This lawyer woman, she takes him to lunch. And then she just lets him walk off into the streets by himself. Like, what a fucking garbage show. And then at the end, this kid Eugene, he actually kills the son of Bryan Cranston, and it's meant to be this super powerful, sad ending, like, wah. And it just comes off as one giant F-U. It pissed me off so much. What a waste of time that was. This could have been a top-tier show. It could have been on the level of Breaking Bad. You could have had, 10 seasons, because that's what TV shows do. And it could have gotten to the point where people would say, you know what one of the best shows of all time is? Your Honor. Because there are some great moments where he is the judge and he's pulling all the strings and orchestrating things to where they're all going his way. And there's all this great stuff. But then the villain. The villain of the season is trash too. He literally, Sophie, the villain in this show, they have it to where the most villainous things that he does is he stabs a grapefruit over and over again in frustration. And then in another episode, he kills a songbird. And that's it. That's it. That's all the villainous stuff that he does. Other than that, it's just his henchmen who are like killing people or beating people up. But this big time gangster villain, all he's capable of doing is stabbing a grapefruit and going like, yeah, while he stabs it. Number 5 has the villain from Your Honor, and it is Dopesick. Now this is another agenda show. It started off so bad that I didn't even want to watch it. Because it starts off with this lesbian agenda bullshit. The whole season is basically a lesbian agenda show. An opioid agenda show. And it's too bad because they took an important subject and they completely made it an agenda show. And they had these terrible stories that just... They went in these really dumb directions. Like, you have Michael Keaton, he's the best part of the show, obviously, and he gets addicted, And then at the end, he's just like fine. But it's like the whole season is following him getting addicted.
That's not.
And then at the same time, like there's all these other stories. Like there's one with the sales guy, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm selling people opioids, and it's very bad." That's the whole season, Sophie.
Oh,
And no, but Sophie, that's not the worst storyline. The worst one is with Rosario Dawson. Rosario Dawson plays this strong whammon DEA agent, and she gets in a relationship with this guy and marries him, and then he doesn't like that she talks about the opioid crisis all the time at home, and so she divorces him. That's her story, Sophie. That's cinema. And then if that's not bad enough, the lesbian, her whole story is that she's a lesbian teenager, and her West Virginian parents don't like that she's lesbian, and so she gets addicted to opioids, and then she dies, and then it's like wah wah wah, and she's not even a real person. She's fucking fake. And just like this whole show, this show's just manipulated, fake, trash, bullshit show. That being said, it had a lot of great stuff in it. The best part of the show is the villain. Is the guy who is in charge of the opioid company. I mean, that's pretty bad, Sophie.
Yes, and it's true to life.
The best part of the show is the villainous opioid dealer. That's not a good thing at all. And he's actually really, really good. And Michael Keaton's really good. There's a lot of great performances, but the story is really bad.
No.
Number 4 is Tell Me Your Secrets. Sophie,
Yeah,
you watched it.
I did.
Yeah, the one with the 2 women and then the rapist. Sophie. This is the show. Let's see. This show I actually thought was better than those other 2 because it had more potential. It had a lot more potential for greatness. I love the idea where you have these 3 main characters and each of them have to go through their own personal journeys together. And the best one is the ex-rapist. Well, he raped someone in this show again at a certain point, but he's basically a Norman Bates style character, and he's hired to find the other woman by the 3rd woman, and his character story is just so good. He's such a fantastic actor, and he's really creepy, he's really likable, he's sympathetic, and his story is really pretty good. And then with the other 2, there's some good story with them too, because it's this big mystery and all this intrigue with the serial killer who murdered all these girls, and it's pretty interesting, and it could be a lot better if it had a good writer to write the second season. But it'll never have a second season, unfortunately, so...
Really? You know that for sure?
Well, they haven't ever renewed it, and it came out in like February or March of last year, so...
Oh.
What do you think, Sophie?
I hate to tell you, I just don't remember that at all, so it must not have been that great for
Well,
me.
you didn't like how it jumped all over the place.
That's probably why I don't remember it.
And then you have Richard Thomas, and he was really good.
Oh,
He played the rich dad, and his big line was, "Come to Jesus, baby." And he played this really sinister Norman Osborn style character, and he was really good too. And there was just so much potential with this show. It had a Louisiana setting, Louisiana swamp setting, just so much stuff that could have been really good. And so that's why I have to put it at number 4, because I saw through the bad show to the potential that it had.
Yeah,
Sophie?
I think it was, I liked it in certain parts, but it seemed like it came to look like a Lifetime movie at a certain point, and then of course Richard Thomas, he didn't have that big of a part, but when he was out there, he played did an excellent job. It's just a continuation of our whole evaluation of his movies.
And he could have been in the second season a lot more. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, the potential is there.
And it was an interesting setting. I mean, you know, you watch these movies, they're either in a small town or they're in a city. And of course, yeah, there was probably a small town in here somewhere, but they really showed the majority of the movie was taken out in like the bayou or the swamp. And that was interesting. I really enjoyed that. Not everybody gets to see that kind of environment. And it's an interesting place to have a conversation and a serial killer and murder in a swamp. I mean, what more can you say? And then there's all these, movies with scary swamp monsters, and of course they don't have that. But still, it's a good place to have a movie. And so there were some positive points, but the title, I think it's the title. It doesn't. And there's something about it. Just I had trouble remembering, but
It jumped around a lot.
Yeah,
that's what you didn't like. It jumped around all over the place all the time.
And that's you can't keep a coherent thought. If your mind's jumping around a million different places, how can anybody think about anything coherently? Anything in your life. So, if you're trying to follow a movie and it's jumping around all over the place, how can you have a coherent thought about it if that's what it's doing?
You have to admit the Norman Bates character was really good. He was the best part of the show.
Yes, he was. And it was interesting because they're married in real life.
Yeah, him and the other main girl.
And I thought that was... That itself
I was shocked.
I know. That's not even, that's not part of the story. But in real life, they're married. They have kids.
No, I will
They
say...
have a couple of kids.
That comes with a little... Except for this one thing. Now, the worst part of the show was... It did seem like there were some agendas.
It just seems like you can't escape it, but that
I
doesn't
know.
mean it's right.
Well, it just seemed like toward the end of the show, all the male characters were turned out to be bad. And then all the female characters were given free rein to do whatever they wanted, to where one of the main female characters literally commits murder in the finale in her house. And it's just like, oh yeah, hell yeah, girl power, you killed that abusive coach, yeah. And it's like, you just committed murder, you dumbass bitch. Like, you just did what this whole season started about. Like, but I really did like a lot of the stuff. I liked the show so much that I watched like 3 episodes a day, too. I had to limit myself because I was so interested in the story and seeing what was going to happen next. And as I said... If it had a better writer, wink, wink, it would be a really, really good show. And a different title, too, because the title
is problematic for me.
Not good.
Why.
It should have been something to do with 3 people, 3 main characters, something like that. I don't know.
That's a title. If any of you don't know, titles are very hard.
Well, to be fair, Sophie, Dopesick was a terrible title, too.
Ugh.
So...
Jesus.
That's a worse title.
Okay, well, moving on.
Number 3 is the South Park specials. Now, obviously, you guys know I hated the vaccination special. It was terrible. It was unfunny. They kept on repeating the same jokes over and over again. But the other 2 specials that came out this year, the Post-COVID Part 1 and Post-COVID Part 2, were phenomenal. It was doing a time travel story, but doing it well. It basically put the new Spider-Man... Excuse me. It basically put the new Spider-Man movie to shame with how good it was. And they actually gave a lot of character to Cartman, and he was actually the best character of both parts. He had a very good character arc. And it was really, really good. It was unexpectedly good because they released that horrible vaccination special. But they really showed this evil dystopian future, and then they showed them fixing it, and there's lots of great twists and turns Really, really good. Number 2 is Cobra Kai Season 3. Now, this show deserves to be a lot lower because it was terrible in the sense that the story structure was bad. It was terribly structured to the point of where I was wondering, like, really? Like, this is a season of Cobra Kai? Like, ugh. And it's really just a big lead up to Christmas. Like, it almost feels like the first part of a season rather than a whole season. And there's no tournament this season, which I was fine with.
What?
But, Sophie, guess what happens? I'm going to blow your mind.
What?
There's a lot of great things that I loved about this season. You get to learn more about Kreese's backstory, which was really, really good. There's lots of great stuff this season. Johnny and Daniel teaming up for the first time, kinda, and lots of great stuff. But then you get to the finale, and Sophie, in the finale, they bring back Elizabeth Shue, and she's really, really unlikable, and she's basically like a walking, talking wax figure because she got like some sort of plastic surgery, and it looks really bad. Like she's like they play her off as like she's this really healthy like lifestyle person who's like eating sushi all the time, but then you look at her face and she, you could clearly see she had plastic surgery. It's pretty bad. But in the finale, Johnny goes out on a date with her to a Christmas party, and while that happens, all of the people from the rivaling dojos are at home at Daniel's house. And then the evil dojo comes and breaks into their house and starts beating up everyone in the house, like attacking them and assaulting them.
Weird.
And they literally reference Cape Fear. So it's another thing where they were copying Cape Fear, like with Chucky, with the home invasion thing. Like with how Chucky invaded the house. But at this point, it was the rivaling, the evil gang, and they break in, they're beating them up, and the fight is so bad. It literally looks like a Bollywood dance scene. and the camera's like going all over the place, and they're all just like dancing with each other. It's really bad.
Boy.
But they did have some good stuff with Peyton List's character, Sophie. She is evil, and she is having this rivalry with Samantha, and their rivalry was really good, and it was really an intense battle where they're fighting, and it was basically, it looked like she was gonna kill her, and but obviously she wasn't. And then also Daniel goes to Okinawa, and we meet several characters who were in Karate Kid 2. And as you guys know, Karate Kid 2 is my favorite one of the series. And so it was really great seeing those characters again with Daniel. And so, yeah, it was really good in some ways, but then in other ways it was trash. And the biggest reason was plot structure. Because the character Miguel, he gets terribly injured in the second season finale, and then it literally takes him like 4 episodes to heal up. And Safi, he broke his back, and like had this horrible spinal injury where he might not have been able to walk again, and he literally heals in like 2 seconds. And it's terrible because it feels like I wanted to see that build up the whole season. But instead, it's very rushed. And there's a lot of stuff that's rushed in favor of other stories, and I hate this rushing business. It's something Safi likes to do sometimes.
Yeah, well, okay.
And the number 1 is Cobra Kai Season 4. They really redeemed it with Cobra Kai Season 4. Everything that was bad about Season 3 was redeemed in Season 4. They brought back Terry Silver from Karate Kid 3, which I've never seen, and he is probably the best character in the whole Karate Kid series. He was so cool, and he was such a great villain, but also a great mentor at the same time. He was really, really good. And this season has a fantastic tournament. It's got so much great stuff that like you could do hours and hours of just talking about the endless number of great things about this season. But now, once again, they had a little bit of issues with plot structure. With every episode, there would be an uneven amount of story to where a character would just disappear for a whole episode. And then in the next episode, oh, look, there they are. And then there's another character, and she was really big in seasons 2 and 3. And then all of a sudden, oh, bye-bye. She's just there for like 5 minutes the whole season. And they do this Karate Kid reboot where it's a reversal, and basically the bully, he starts off as a bully, but then he becomes the victim, and then the victim becomes the bully at the end. That was really, really good. There's just so many great things. And then finally, the best thing was the ending. Well, oh, wait, no, I had to talk about a bad thing first. The second half of this season, speaking about plot structure, the second half of the season was entirely built around changes to the tournament. And it was an agenda thing, Sophie.
No.
He's heard Sophie just go, no. They change it to where in the tournament, boys cannot fight girls anymore, and they have to be segregated and fight only people of the same gender. Or in this day and age, you probably could have transgender people, and that's not fair at all. So I don't know what the point of the segregation thing was. But it's just terrible, and they do that because they don't, quote unquote, they don't want to promote domestic violence. Like, fuck off. Oh. You just did that so that you could have a male and a female champion. That's the real reason why you did it. But it was worth it. There's this fantastic fight sequence where it's Peyton List's character versus Samantha, and they have probably the best battle in the whole Cobra Kai series, and then she wins, Peyton List wins, and it's a very satisfying moment for her character, because ever since the beginning when she's been on the show, she's been having a rough time. And so it's really satisfying after these seasons and seasons. She finally kicks Samantha's ass, because Samantha is just like a complete biatch. And I'm really getting sick of her character, and then Daniel's wife too. His wife and daughter, I hate them. And then there was also a really cringeworthy scene where they were doing the Karate Kid reboot in the midst of this, and they had it to where the bullies get chased into the library, and then the victim, he turns off the lights, and he starts taking them out one by one like Batman. And I thought that was cringeworthy, and there was some stuff like that too. But overall, this was the best show of 2021, and it was so good that it was better than every single movie that came out in 2021, both old and new. So that's how good Cobra Kai Season 4 was. Wow. That should say something. Sophie, fucking lame-ass, Beta, can't watch Cobra Kai.
I don't want to. I'm not in the mood for that.
You will be.
I have another son who did karate for years, and I went to every single practice and Sophie, every single test.
Sophie, he told you he loved it. He said,
"Why? He did.
Why didn't you watch it, Ma?"
I don't know why he stopped. I'll have to ask him. Well, the thing is, I don't know what it's like for the show, but I've seen some of the show, and they seem like they're older when they do it. When my other son was doing it, they were really young.
No,
he started off like in first or second grade or something. No,
they have younger characters too.
Oh, they do? Okay, well they were, but when he was doing it, you had a black belt by the time you were in 6th grade. And I don't know if that was right because
I think it was.
I don't know. It just was kind of weird. I don't and I don't think he wanted to do anymore. I don't know. I have to ask him because he said I should watch. He talked about this season Mark was talking about, and he really enjoyed it. He says I should watch it.
It was the best thing of 2021. It was fantastic. It was a masterpiece. You couldn't say everything that was good about it because there's just an endless amount of great things about it, and it's definitely one that you could rewatch again. And the ending is just totally worth it with the tournament fight between the two girls. But the thing was that I said too in my review, you didn't have to separate them. You could have had it to where the guy beats the other guy, and you could have had that story happen, and then you could have had him get beaten by the girls, and then the girls could have fought each other, maybe. Something like that. Like, it didn't have to be where you segregated them, and I do think that that's, like, really weak, because it felt like that starting in season 2. Where
it could have something to do with the reality of what they do.
It's just stupid,
I
because
don't know.
in the final fight in season 2, the girls and the boys are like fighting each other separately, and it's just so cringeworthy. Like in the first season, they're fighting the boys and the girls. They're fighting each other, and it's like, who cares? Like, Anyways, Sophie, that's it.
Okay, well, if you like this video,
You will be
please
watching
press
Cobra
the
Kai.
like button, and if you want to be a subscriber and you haven't subscribed yet, we welcome you with open arms. We always love new subscribers, and if you have any comments about the Marco's #1 or any of his other placements of shows, then we are very open to listening to those or reading those comments, and and I'm sure you would too, and I know Marco does, discussing these different shows and how you saw they can do a good show with Cobra Kai. So if they can do Cobra Kai, they can do these other shows too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, really, the other shows...
It's not an impossibility.
The other shows don't even come close to Cobra Kai, honestly. Like, it's kind of like a, Cobra Kai and then everything else all the way at the bottom.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
Okay? So anyway, bye everybody.
Bye.